Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be taking a look at one of my favorite champions in the game, and that unfortunately is Northstar. A champion that is pretty unnoticed by the community, and I think I only know like 5 people who actually play him, which is sad to see, but hopefully this video explains why. Now, even though this is a why nobody plays video, I will still involve aspects as to why you should play him, not only because I'm super biased, I like the champion, he's literally at rank 3, but because I think he's a champion that you should give a try before you turn him down. Pause. But like we always do with these kinds of videos, let's actually go over all of Clear Silver's abilities and then later on discuss why nobody plays him. Whenever Northstar starts the fight, he begins with a speed burst on cooldown for 24 seconds, and when the cooldown expires, he can activate it by activating a special attack during or after a dash, when he actually medium dashes to the opponent, or after punishing a heavy attack or special attack, which will activate his speed burst for 12 seconds. While this speed burst is active, all of his special attacks will cost 25% less power, and while he's using a dash attack, medium attacks, his striker, or during either champion's special attacks, his speed burst will actually be paused. When he's a defender, his speed burst activates immediately when the cooldown ends, but no one plays him as a defender, so you should be good. His light attacks have a 30% to 10% chance to grant him a reverb charge, scaling down with how many charges he actually has. His medium attacks cause his speed burst cooldown to expire much faster, and against skilled champions, the first hit of the second medium attack will inflict an armor break debuff, lowering the opponent's armor rating by a certain amount for 12 seconds, and this debuff doesn't actually stack. While this armor break debuff is active on the opponent, their critical resistance will be lowered by 80%, and if it's purified, Northstar will gain 1 reverb charge. Moving on to his momentum, which the max of these charges that he can have is 6. Whenever he activates a special attack, he gains 1 indefinite momentum charge per level of special attack that he actually used, and when a skill champion evades, he gains 1 additional momentum. His speed burst cooldown is reduced by 3 seconds per momentum. While he has 2 momentum, he becomes passively unstoppable whenever he dashes or uses a medium dash to attack the opponent, and while he has 6 of these, whenever he throws a special attack into the opponent's block, the first or second hit will actually be unblockable for 0.75 seconds. On the activation of his special attacks, he has a 100% chance to gain a 12% prowess buff per momentum for 10 seconds, and the max stacks of these prowesses that he can have is 30. Each hit of his special attacks will also have a 5% chance per momentum to grant an additional prowess buff, and all of his special attack hits will gain an increased amount of critical rating during his speed burst. As for the special attacks themselves, the special 1. On activation, it inflicts a slow passive for 10 seconds with an increased duration of 4 seconds per momentum you actually have, and each hit of the special attack has a 15% chance to pause personal prowess and reverb effects for 2 seconds, with these pauses being able to stack and expire one at a time. He also has a 100% chance to gain an additional pause if the hit was a critical, but moving on to the special 2. Each hit converts 1 reverb charge into a 12% reverb passive for 14 seconds, which allows his hits to deal a burst of additional damage, and the max stacks of these reverbs that he can have is 25. If any of these hits are critical, he gains 2 reverb passives instead, and whenever his speed burst is active, he has a 20% chance to convert another reverb charge into a reverb. And last but not least, the special 3. He gains 8 of his reverb charges, and his chance to trigger prowess, reverb charges, as well as pause effects will permanently be increased by 200%, but unfortunately this effect can only be activated once per fight. As for his awakened ability, however, whenever he gains a momentum, he gains a physical resistance passive for 6 seconds, with its duration being increased by 3 seconds per momentum that he actually has, and the max stacks of these physical resistance passives that he can have is 1. While this physical resistance passive is up, he also gains a reinforced passive, ensuring that critical hits do not do any damage, and any incoming hits will have reduced block penetration. But that is pretty much it for all of his abilities. A kit that sounds complex with all of this momentum, reverb charges and all that, but once you actually play him and learn his rotation, then he's a pretty easy champion to play. Now as for how to play him, well, I would say he basically has 2 rotations. The first is where you hit the opponent until you have about 2.9 bars of power, and then try stunning the opponent, dashing back and then dashing forward, and immediately once he hits the opponent, you launch the special 2, convert the reverb charges into passives or whatever these are, and then immediately after that, you throw the special 1 in order to get as many pauses as you can. Now after this, it's pretty much just SP1 spam until you have a lot of the pauses, and once you feel like you have enough, you go back to the special 2, special 1 again, and basically over and over again. As for the second rotation, you build all the way up until you have 3 bars of power, stun the opponent, dash back, dash in, and then throw the SP3 right when you actually hit them. The dashing forward is basically just to make sure you enter his speed burst thing, which basically allows your specials to cost less power. After the special 3, you build all the way up until 2.9 bars of power, and then just like with the last rotation, you pretty much do the same. Throw the special 2 again, spam special 1s, pretty much just like that. There might be a better rotation than that, please do let me know down in the comments if you do have one, but these are basically the ones that I found being the best. But anyways, on to this man's attire, and I almost love it. Almost. It's definitely a clean outfit, and it's tight to the point where you can actually see his muscles and all that, but I basically just have one problem with it. The triangle shapes going all around at this part, and then this one as well, and even the boots, man. It definitely does take away from it and makes it look like a champion from the 1980s or something. And just imagine if these 2 spots were black. It would basically look like Professor X's one, full black except for the gloves, which would look so clean, but unfortunately this is what we have. If only these 2 parts weren't there, then I'd be giving this a 10 out of 10, but unfortunately I would say it's a 7 or 7.5 out of 10. But anyways, on to the topic of why nobody plays him. The first reason I would say is that his combo does take a while to get used to. His light as well as medium attacks all have 3 hits, so it kind of does get confusing at a certain point where you might not know if you ended your combo or not. The second problem that's caused by the combos themselves is the fact that they generate little to no power. If you compare this insanely long combo to a normal 5-hit combo, it would only make sense that he gains more power since he's hitting more, but for some reason in this game that's not actually the case, and I'll actually leave a comparison for you guys to check that out. Yep, it just doesn't make sense. Now they do try to circumvent this by sort of making the additional hits actually have more value, which in the case of Northstar, he does deal additional bursts of damage when he actually has his reverbs up, but again, I don't think that's a good enough reason as to why he gets so little power. It's bad to the point where I sometimes spam heavy attacks just so that I can gain more power, but I guess it's not that big of a deal. Reason number two, I would say, is the fact that he has little to no utility at all. The only piece of utility that he actually has is the slow from the special one, but in today's day and age, it's simply not enough. Even just having a single immunity, maybe something like shock or incinerate or something, would definitely help him out, cause right now he's basically just a normal champion. Another problem that I think he has is that his pauses don't last long enough. Maybe increasing it by 1 to 2 seconds would be much better, cause sometimes I do find myself losing most of my effects. Now this might be a skill issue, maybe I'm too greedy for trying to get to the special 2, but spamming special 1s, I prefer the special 2. But those issues aside, I do think he's an incredible champion, one with some of the best damage that you can find in the game, especially for long-term fights in places like Necropolis, for example. And this take that I'm about to give might age just like milk, but I believe that Clear Silver will be more relevant in places like Act 9 and for any future content that Kabam actually brings, simply because he deals a lot of damage in a relatively short amount of time. And the thing about story content is that the health pool will always get much bigger. The reason why this might age like milk is the fact that he has no immunities at all, and so even if he is much better for such places, he might not actually be able to do those fights. Kabam also releases new champions every single month, so he might just get left in the dust, but still, I do think this champion is worth looking into. But that is pretty much it for the video. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think of him. Make sure to join my Discord group. The link will be down in the description. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace!